Ah ouais?
I was like, maybe they're gonna give me headlights right here.
What's my purpose?
How we doing, Michelle?
And stupid things.
How we doing, Michelle?
Suit onto my body. Stupid stuff.
I mean, I'm looking at this chaos here, and you made it worse.
All right. Can you hear me? Anna, can you hear me? You good? All right. Welcome to the school board meeting of the Greater Albany Public Schools. It is 7 o'clock, and we'll get started. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. The board did meet in executive session tonight, and let me look over some notes real quick. The Greater Albany Public School Board Board of Directors met at the starting of the meeting in executive session under ORS 332.0611A in Section 3. The board voted in executive session the authority given under ORS 332.061. Information about executive session is confidential and is not considered to the public record. Before we start, I would like to thank, I see our policy committee is here. I appreciate you coming tonight. It has been a lot of hard work. Also members of our bond oversight committee and special guests. Gentlemen, I'll ask for approval of the agenda at this time.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Mr. Superintendent, we'll move to Section E, comments from the public.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Aganagwa. We have 3 public comments tonight. I do want to emphasize that the entire text submitted for public comment is provided to the board and is submitted for the public record. And short summary for each of the 3 public comments this evening. Public comment number 1, the individual sharing their appreciation to Sunrise Elementary School, thanking Sunrise Elementary School for making a difference in our students' lives, in quotations. Public comment number 2, the individual is asking the board to adopt a proposal of an outcome-based K-12 academic improvement plan at our meeting tonight and not waiting until the new superintendent begins in July. And public comment number 3, the individual states that they remain concerned about the recent changes to school board policy BDDH, specifically the policy change prohibiting written comments criticizing district representatives. And that concludes the public comment summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. All right, Esperanza, we are so proud of you. We have a little presentation for you tonight. Recently, Esperanza was voted and accepted as the Albany Chamber of Commerce Student of the Year. If you would please join me in a round of applause. You can stand. And just to keep the Esperanza celebration train going on, I am poorly going to read some of the submissions about her. One of the qualities that Esperanza makes fantastic is her work ethic. Esperanza is willing to put in the countless hours and sometimes takes her goals through to completion. She doesn't want to just take tasks and complete through. She makes them her own and to the highest standard. Esperanza is a remarkable young woman. I am confident that no matter what path she may choose, she will be successful. It has been nothing but a pleasure to work with her over the past few years. I look forward to hearing all about the wonderful things that she is going to accomplish in life after high school. I had the privilege of knowing Esperanza throughout her high school career. She was a freshman in my freshman success class the first year, and I taught at South Albany High School then. I encouraged her to join the AVID elective for the second semester. One of her favorite things about AVID elective class is that her teacher stays with the students throughout their entire school years. It is amazing to see all the changes and growth in students. She has especially been true to Esperanza. I believe strongly that the individual can endure throughout all those challenges through careers within themselves, a rare ability to persevere in the face of adversity. She has worked unrealistically hard for all she has shown in her life and is now asking for the opportunity to work harder. Still though she may serve others in greater capacity, the higher education achievements permits, please give her full consideration. There is like 5 pages of about how great Esperanza is. Once again, congratulations. That's an amazing accomplishment. We will move on to superintendent comments.
Okay, well, I should say congratulations, so nice work. I just have a few comments tonight. Let's see, we're in the serious phase of budget season right now, and we're doing the foundational work of putting a budget together for the 22-23 school year. We have our own staff, Sean Yoder and Shannon Bate, working on that, as well as some of outside support, Janice and Lance Colley. And Janice and Lance both had careers as business managers and now do some consulting with school districts. And I'm confident that the combination of people that we've put together will do a good job of creating our budget for next year. For anyone who has an interest, we have our first budget meeting of the year, budget committee meeting of the year, this Wednesday, April 6th at 7 o'clock at the district office boardroom. And Janice and Lance will guide the committee through what they are calling Budget 101. And I've walked through the PowerPoint they put together for that, and it looks really, really good, and I'd like to thank them for that. I think it'll be interesting, and it would be informative for anybody who wants to participate. Hiring season's also underway, and in anticipation of next school year again. It's an interesting time of year for a school district because it is this ongoing work of making sure that everything that needs to happen between now and the end of the year, including getting kids graduated and all of that kind of work, is underway. But we're also in the process of doing a ton of work to scale up for the next school year, and it just, hiring season's a big piece of that. We had a good showing at several job fairs recently, and the reports that I received about our presence and our presentation at the Portland Job Fair was all favorable. It's an event that almost every school district in the state goes to. You have a booth, you set up, and you present yourself publicly to potential hires, and other school districts get an idea of what you're doing too, and I heard lots of positive reports. There are educator shortages for sure, and as they become more severe, we're going to need to continue upping our efforts at recruiting. I know that there were far fewer candidates at the Portland Job Fair this year than typical. I think that some of the educators this year that were student teachers were able to get provisional licenses, have been teachers this year, and have already been hired by school districts. I know that there are several positions in particular that we'd love to find, like elementary music teachers, and thus far we've spoken to 0. The same is true with counselors, and so we're going to keep working at it and do our very best to make sure that we hire great folks as we head into the next school year. I also spent some time last week. I wanted people to know out at our physical plant headquarters, went out there a couple of times, where we have the textbooks that we have under consideration for adoption in the area of English language arts and a couple other areas that you'll hear more about tonight. Those textbooks are displayed out there, and they're available for public review and feedback, and they will be for another couple weeks. I wanted to go through the textbooks myself and ensure that there's something we should be excited to adopt. And I also met several of our board members, several of you out there, and who are doing the same thing. And after looking through them and understanding their utility to us, I'm really pleased by what I reviewed, and want to commend the staff who are here tonight to present. And I see a number of those folks out in the audience. And thank you for being here tonight. Pleased by what I reviewed, and want to commend them for their good work in the selection process. There are still several remaining steps in the process, and we'll work through those in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be bringing forward a recommendation to the board. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer, or any other topics you'd like me to speak to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. That is going to bring us to board liaison reports and board reports.
I had the opportunity to go by, or to visit with John Hunter at South Albany High School and Assistant Principal Bryce, and I forget Bryce's last name off the top of my head. I'm sorry, Bryce.
Bennett.
Bennett, thank you, there it is. And John Hunter was very kind with his time. We sat down in his office and just got to know each other, and I knew I was in really good hands and safe space when I saw all of the duck paraphernalia in there. I thought I had gone to heaven. It was awesome. Being a duck myself, I really enjoyed that. We talked a lot about Oregon Ducks and South Albany High School. And then we got together with Bryce and we got to walk the campus. And even though I've lived in Albany since 1972, this is the first time I've ever been in South Albany High School. And so that was a really pleasure to go through, to walk through it, to see the new improvements. I must admit I have a lot of shop envy. I really enjoyed the welding stations and that, a lot of the different machines they have in the woodworking. I got to meet David, who is now their new wood teacher at South Albany High School, and so we got to say hi to him. And just very impressed with what they have there. They've got classrooms that are attached to the rooms where they can then go in and do work, so they can do practical lessons and then walk out and actually put hands on and apply what they've just learned. And we talked about, we sat there for quite some time talking about how to start a pilot program where we can take 10 to 12 students, give them some additional education, and marry them with local employers so that upon graduation, they can walk into some positions where they can have some decent paying jobs out of high school. And so I thought it was a really positive meeting, and I left there very hopeful that we can get that program together soon.
Thank you, sir. There's no beaver rebuttal or anything in there. Mr. Thompson?
Just real quick, I sat in this morning when I think I mentioned before, what's called the AIM Committee, our union's kind of informal discussion of what is happening with them. I attended the Hispanic Advisory Committee, and I don't want to steal his thunder. The key highlight of that was Director Morse introduced himself to the committee and had a long discussion. And we've got the policy review. We have some to deal with tonight, and we have the committee continues on Wednesday.
Yes, as Michael said, Pete Morse got to meet with Lynn Benton Hispanic Advisory Committee. It was great to get to reach out and answer some of their questions. I was a little surprised. I mean, basically the whole 2 hours I was answering questions, which was good. Probably the biggest thing out there that I learned from it was there's questions out there that we might not necessarily be hearing. And we certainly want everyone to know if you have questions, please bring them to the board. Bring them through the board, write us a letter, send us an email. We want to hear the questions and concerns. I will probably go back to that advisory committee in a few months. Me and Neff talked about that and give them an opportunity to ask me some more questions. I think I've already talked about this, though, talking to the Albany Police Department. We're initially thought we were going to have our second student resource officer on board. We do not yet. It's due to manning. We won't have that until hopefully the beginning of next school year.
Thank you, sir. It was an eventful couple of weeks. Like Superintendent Saxon said, I was able to join another board member and himself and review some of the new curriculum that is coming our way. And honestly, from the books I read, they were very exciting, and I give them 2 thumbs up. You've done great work. The superintendent I've met a few times. There's a lot going in motion with budget season, and I've met with some local legislators about bringing some more money to gaps for preschool. So that's a goal for next year with the legislator. Other than that, I believe it would be Ms. Esperanza's turn.
Ooh, all right. Just quick, thank you guys. Thanks for making me feel so special right now. So I'd just like to start off with, this week is our Pride Week. Each day we focus on a different letter of pride. There's dress-up days, different types of themes, flight activities, and lunchtime activities. So today, it was anything but a backpack day, so it made campus super exciting. And there was a kid with a wheelbarrow, there was a lot of luggages, and just different things going on. So it was nice to see the excitement of being at school and all the different, we had a huge amount of kids participating, and it was a good moment. So today was based off perseverance. It's the start of our canned food drive, which I'll get into more later. And we had a lunchtime activity, which was like a cup game, which was fun. And Tuesday is respect. It's Generations Day. So like the freshmen are gonna dress up as babies. The juniors are gonna dress up as like midlife crisis. I will be dressing up as a senior citizen, and all the teachers are gonna be dressing up as college kids. So it should be another interesting day. That lunchtime activity is gonna be Mr. Hunter Says, so it's like Simon Says, but with our principal. And Wednesday is integrity and discipline. It's suits versus spurs, so like cowboy, formal. And that day is going to be the catwalk, so you get to strut. And Thursday is based off excellence. It's our Red Hawk Day, so wear your gear, support your school. This is one of the most type of how do I say this? A lot of kids are really excited for this, so it's really nice to start seeing that pride within our school, a lot of kids really wanting to participate and just having that moment back to just really appreciate being in school. And I will say that this was fully organized by a group of kids who just wanted school to be like it used to be. They had no type of expectations towards this. They just genuinely wanted to see the school shine again. And I wanted to put this out there. Today's the week of Assistant Principal Week, so we will be appreciating our assistant principals. Another thing, Swarm. So on March 25th and 26th, our Swarm Robotics competed at the Oregon State Fairgrounds regional event and ended up ranked 14th out of the 28 teams. The fair was a very challenging one. I believe it was the most competitive event in our district so far this year. Their robot lobster worked well and had no significant damages to deal with during the event. And I know this team worked really hard, and I'm pretty sure they made it to the quarterfinalists. So they did pretty well. State testing is starting for our juniors. You could definitely tell in their eyes when they come into school. So they're doing well and they're persevering through this. We had our first all-school assembly on April 1st. This was a big moment for us. We were worried about how things would work out with the different type of kids there. But I have been in school for 4 years, and even before COVID, I don't think I've seen that many kids yell during our sound off and just genuinely want to be there. So much support during our different events that were going on. And I think this is the start of kids being happy in school again and genuinely wanting to be there, because I know this is what they missed out on. Forecasting will start mid-April, and we will be bringing 8th graders to our campus, and they will be able to visit and start their forecasting. 9th graders missed this opportunity, so we're really happy to give it back to our 8th graders. Spring sports started, and they have gone well so far. I know softball and baseball won last week against 6A division teams, and the last track meet at West Omni went pretty well. Leadership is starting to work on prom. Prom will be April 22nd at OSU, and I know our juniors are working really hard to this, and I know they are really excited to be able to give this to their seniors and themselves, but I can tell they're very excited. As of right now, it's April 23rd at OSU. I don't know the time, but it's like at 7, I think. Or 6, but it should go really well, and that's as of right now. So far, hopefully nothing changes. We're still in need of chaperones, so if anyone here wants to come support their school and support their kids, it's Enchanted theme. And coming up, we have our blood drive, which is a huge event at South, and one of our seniors, Jenna, organizes it, and she's done really well. And I know this is a big opportunity for her to showcase her planning, and she does really well at it. Food drive is starting this week. So far, we've already, I think, filled up 4 boxes for our local fish community. And I know kids are still really excited to see it go on. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Allie is not here tonight, but she sent a message. She would like to extend her congratulations to our dance team, the High Steppers, for taking first place at their 5th A state competition. And she would also like to encourage people to come and watch the West Albany production of Anastasia on April 15, 16, 21, 22, and 23. And that will move us to our next agenda item. Our high school report.
Right there.
Good evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk tonight about the third proud high school in the Greater Albany Public School District. My name is Mark Hannon, and I'm the principal at Albany Option School. And this is Anna Harriman, and she is the counselor. We thought it might be appropriate, especially for myself. This is my second year here in GAPS, and haven't had the opportunity to sit before you yet. And so I thought it would be appropriate for us to put up a couple of things that outline kind of who we are. And again, it's my second year here, and I've had a broad array of roles and responsibilities in education, K-12, and you'll note on there, the one thing I did want to note is I was an alternative ed teacher early in my career, and I've kind of come full circle and now have become the alternative ed principal, and it's been really rewarding, and I've really enjoyed it. Anna.
Thank you. Anna Harriman. I'm the counselor at Albany Option School. Before I was a teacher, I taught English, social studies, family consumer sciences, horticulture. But one of my other hats that I wear in the district is I'm the district lead counselor for the secondary level, so middle and high school level. And within that, I'm the district crisis response coordinator. So whenever we have a death or a suicide in our district, I step in and I support that building's leadership to implement our crisis response protocol.
We wanted to begin giving you a quick snapshot of what AOS looks like. And I think there are a number of things. I don't need to read all of those, but there are a number of things that jump out to me. Obviously, our free and reduced lunch number is an important number that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. You'll see the faces of what our students look like, 13%, 504, 18% IEPs. And the one thing that I would like to note is the bottom parentheses, the 5-year completer rate. So a student comes to us, and within 5 years, they either earn a GED or they earn a high school diploma. 93% of our students do that, and the state average you'll see is 87%. Our graduation rate is typically in the 50s, but our GED program draws away from that graduation rate. So we really look at that completer rate, and obviously we have some room to grow. We need that number to be 100%. So that's something we're working towards on a day-to-day basis.
So Albany Option School, our primary focus is we're the credit recovery high school. So students come to us from South or West who have struggled to be successful. That's our main purpose. Within the umbrella of AOS, we have 4 main programs. The biggest one that most people think of when they think of Albany Option School is our Innovative High School. That's designed mostly for juniors and seniors who are credit deficient. Our class size is capped at 15. We do custom instruction, custom schedules. So when I do scheduling as a counselor, each student's schedule is completely different based off of their credit needs. We do school-wide Qtel implementation, so every teacher in every classroom is doing Qtel every day. We do hands-on and CTE opportunities. Some of our smaller programs include our GED program. So any student in our district seeking their GED attends our daily GED program. We are a Pearson VUE accredited site, so students do all their testing on site in our building. We have a new program that we started this year, which I'm really excited about, is our Options Academy. So that is a one-semester credit recovery program for underclassmen. So we rolled it out this fall with sophomores. We had it opened to 15 sophomores from each of the high schools. They came, earned a bucket of credits, and went back for the second semester. Our numbers showed that it was successful, and we're really excited about that. We now have 15 freshmen from each of the high schools who are going through the same intensive credit recovery program, and they've settled in, seeming to do a really nice job. We did our first round of 6-week grading periods, and the freshmen earned a lot of credit, and they're off to a great start. They're really proud of that success that they're starting to experience for the first time in high school. And last but not least is our Choices program. We have a couple of different sessions of it, so you might hear of Choices 1 or Choices 2. This is our independent coursework program, so students come for either a shortened day or they participate in it in RIM, where they do independent coursework, work on programs like OdysseyWare or Packet Curriculum. And this also serves as one of our expulsion placements for students. So those are our 4 main programs.
I wanted to highlight 3 things that are new to AOS beginning this year. And the first bullet there is something we're really proud of. We partnered with North Albany Wellness Center this year, and we have an on-site mental health worker to work with any student at AOS. And we funded that through targeted assistance out of our title program and through the MOU being able to have the therapist bill the student's private insurance. So we can, with 100% across the board, offer mental health services to any student that walks through our doors. Anna mentioned the Options Academy. It's been something that I think was the perfect storm with COVID, with a number of stars aligning. We had students that needed additional support, and we were able to provide that support thanks to FACT and the Welcome Center to be relocated. We really appreciated their cooperation because we needed the physical space, and it's making a difference on a day-to-day basis for these kids. They're back in their the sophomores are back in their resident school, and we'll be sending the freshmen back for the fall. And then lastly, and this is one that's near and dear to my heart, we began a Cte Construction program this year. And if you, I know Board Member Wilson has been there, and if you haven't had a chance to meet Gabe Diaz, the instructor, he is the program. And we're really proud to be able to offer a hands-on experience for our students in a community where the construction program is massive. And we feel like this is just the beginning of CTE experiences for not only our kid, but any GAP student.
So when COVID and virtual learning began, one of the first conversations we started having behind the scenes was, this is going to really impact our GED program. It's no surprise that many students fell so far behind on grad track that their opportunities were limited to having to get their GED so that they could finish with something in hand by their senior year. So this year we really have been feeling that impact, and that's been one of our biggest challenges. We've had a wait list all year of students desperate to come and get their GED. We continue daily to receive new referrals for students trying to get their GED. To address this, we expanded the size of our program. We purchased more licenses and more testing vouchers to try to accommodate this exceptional need. We anticipate that this is going to impact what the numbers look like on our report card, the grad rate, because for the first time in AOS history, we're going to have more GED completers than graduates.
So I wanted to touch a little bit on what we feel makes AOS successful and what makes us unique. And the bullets you'll see there, we feel very confident that if we meet the basic needs of our students, they're going to be able to be successful. And when I say basic needs, the mental health needs, that they're being fed free breakfast and lunch for all students, that their social and emotional learning needs are being met. And we have a daily advisory that we've implemented. And we work with Project Pride out of Eugene that is providing my staff professional development and restorative practices, and we're working very closely with them to provide the SEL trainings for our students that is just going to make them better human beings. We cap our class sizes at 15. I think for those of you, especially, well, I know Mr. Saxton's old enough to know the quality education model. The 15 size is an important thing, and we hear from across the board when we interview our students what makes a difference for them. It's small class sizes, and we really appreciate the ability to fund a school that has those small class sizes. And then lastly, our Qtel professional development. The staff, Principal Hunter 3 years ago began the Qtel PD with the staff at AOS, and we've continued that last year the best we could through COVID, and then we dove right into it this year, and we'll be sending staff to San Francisco this summer. And it's meant for quality teaching for English learners, but it's really good teaching practices for all students. And so we incorporate it into the classroom, and it's really just quality teaching experience. Okay, this is the best part. What are we looking forward to? So ultimately, we would like to expand our CTE footprint, and that's something that we began last spring. We started a process working with the city to see if it was even possible to expand the footprint on the current AOS site, and we began a design phase and have a building design that we feel could be an amazing opportunity for the AOS students and actually any GAP student that would like to come and take a CTE class from Mr. Diaz. We started the Academy program this year and just hit the ground running, and we're going to have some tweaks to make. We've talked about how we can make it better, how we can better support those students, how we can ultimately make sure that when they return to their school that they're back on track. And really our success in this case, we're gauging it on whether or not they don't return to us, whether they remain at South and West and graduate from their resident high school. And then lastly, the one thing that I have really noticed in the last couple of years, especially this year, I do an exit interview with every student that graduates or earns their GED, and I ask every one of them, the first question out of my mouth is, now what? And I don't have exact data, but I would say it's at least in the 90 percentile. The students say, I don't know. And that's an epic fail on our part. And it's something that we are going to address. And I want to create a post-secondary transitions position. I have the FTE to do this. And that person is going to specifically work with our students, every single one of our students, to develop a post-secondary plan, which may include trade school, community college, universities, the workforce, working on interviewing skills, resume building, everything that they need beyond AOS, that person is going to sit down one-on-one and work with them. And we're really excited to start that next year.
So for our last slide, just some quotes from students. You'll kind of see the theme here. The first one, everyone here is so supportive. It's more hands-on, which I like. The teachers really care about the students. It's like a family. That's what we've been hearing for years. The staff tend to recognize when I'm having a hard day, so they try to meet me where I am. And I know I'll never fail here because the teachers want to help me when I need it. They never give up on me.
Questions?
Principal Hannon, Counselor Harriman, that's a great presentation. Thank you on behalf of the community for all your work. I would say that I hear good things about you, but that's not true. What I hear is great things about you consistently all the time. So I compliment you for what you're doing every day. I do have a question. You said you wanted to expand the Cte Construction footprint and program. What do you need to do that? How can we help you?
A checkbook.
How many zeros?
It's a big number. I've talked with Superintendent Saxon a few times about it. We actually don't have an exact number. We're still in that development phase and working with the city to see what the costs would be just for permits and all of the things that go into putting a building on site in the middle of town. And we have a footprint, we have a design that we feel that would massively expand what we're currently doing in the Camelot room at AOS. But if there was one thing, if I could wave a magic wand, it would be that we could build that building there and really start to develop that construction program. I think this town, to not have that particular trade in the schools where we can focus students in all of the different opportunities that every one of those trades provides is a fail on our part. And I think we're just dipping our toe in the water, but I think it could be massive if we are able to expand.
I would just ask that you continue to engage us as you get more information, and I think we'll do everything we can to help you.
I would be happy to. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And just Director Nikos, just so you know, the exploration on this is a real exploration. I mean, we put some resource into, looking at the plans, getting notice from the city about where we are, and it's like a for real exploration. We're not playing with that. So we'll have good answers when we're done.
Thank you.
Yep.
While you're working on your wish list, make sure you put together a wish list for what equipment you'd like. It's my thought process that we could get a ton of equipment from the contractors that are out there and help from them. They need what you want to provide. It's been one of my passions. You were the first school that I got a chance to meet with, and we had a wonderful view. You've got a great program started there, and I believe the board wants to help. So get your ducks in a row, come see us, let's make this thing happen.
I really appreciate that, and I know that when you get the opportunity to meet Gabe Diaz, you'll know we've got the right man in charge. He's an amazing young man, and he's going to make this happen.
Agreed.
I just want to say thank you. Someone I hold dear graduated from AOS last year, and I think you guys take a lot of the what people really frown upon sometimes, and the whole going to an alternative school and getting your GED sometimes it's frowned upon, and you guys take it and you say, hey, we're trying to help you. Things don't always go out. Things don't go to plan sometimes, and that's okay. And I've seen the work that you guys do, and it's honestly amazing, and I love that you guys are always supporting people no matter what path that they're trying to go on.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
All right.
Thanks,
I'm
folks.
Thank you.
Hold on, I got a list. I wrote a list for you.
Oh.
Yeah. Some of the things you forgot to brag about yourself. Prom. You guys have a prom. You have a real
We
prom.
have a prom. This will be our third prom. The theme is Havana Nights, and it's going to be Friday, April 29th at AOS. So if anyone would like to support that, we would love any support.
That's my last item. Scholarships. there is a lot of scholarships going into AOS. There is a ton of, if you look at per capita, it's the exact same as the other two high schools. It is
That's what I tell the
amazing.
kids every day.
Socials and barbecues. It's a welcome area.
It's one of our favorites too. It's a popular pastime of ours. We are hoping to do our luau again at the end of our Spirit Week, which will be later in May. So every year, our last day of Spirit Week has always been a luau. We do a big pork meal for everyone. It's a blast. We're also hoping to bring back our end of year senior barbecue. So we do our senior awards assembly with the school. At AOS, seniors graduate every 6 weeks throughout the year. So we bring back all of our seniors and celebrate them, and we finish up with a barbecue after the awards ceremony. So we are looking to bring back some of those AOS traditions that are kind of part of our identity and who we are, how we like to celebrate our students.
You provide Thanksgiving dinners to students that don't have a Thanksgiving dinner.
We couldn't do that this past year, but we gave them slices of pie.
And we did coordinate the.
And yes, we did do, so 2 community partners were really helpful for us. Jackson Street Youth Shelter provided gift cards for students who needed support over the Thanksgiving holiday. And then St. Anne Orthodox Church, they provided 25 food boxes for our families over winter break that we sent home with them, and they were huge boxes. So lots of community support, of course. Fish, Albany has always been very supportive of the snack packs and meals for our students when they need it as well. We have traditionally cooked a Thanksgiving dinner for our whole student body. I hope to be able to do that again next year.
You still have my potato peeler.
Uh-oh.
I want to identify a problem that you brought to the board in November 2019. It was a study that was done in October of 2019. At AOS, suicidal thoughts the last 2 months was 28% of your students. Suicidal thoughts in the last 12 months was 44% of your students. Attempted suicides in the last 12 months was 10%. And you guys have been enormously fixing that problem. I mean, leaps and bounds. You don't come to us with these problems like this. It's amazing how much you've done to fix the health and well-being of your students.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. So every fall I do a school-wide mental health survey. We did that this year as well. The data, I don't have it on me, but it's comparable. It's actually surprised us that the trends did not change. One area where we did see an increase was in self-harm, but consistently over 70% of our students have self-reported anxiety and depression. Something about 20% of our students have attempted in the last year, and this was as of our data in October. So very high mental health, and that's why we really prioritized having that North Albany Wellness Center partnership. If we want to address our most at-risk youth, and they're most at risk because of their trauma and their mental health, it doesn't matter what we're doing in the classroom. And so we really need to get to the root cause to serve and save these students. So we've been very fortunate to have that support and that partnership with restorative practices and really implementing that school-wide. We're now in our 3rd year and our 2nd year of coaching with them. So that's been a really positive piece brought in. We have a very fluid population. Our students right now are hardly the same students we had in the fall, so we'll never be able to fix this issue. These students are going to continue to come to us, and we need to solve this issue far before they come to us, right? This issue is so deeply ingrained in our community, and we are doing everything we can. Of course, our students aren't going to be successful in a large school setting when they're struggling with so much at home, with their own trauma, with their own health. So we do everything we can, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you for keeping the door open.
Thank you.
All right, now some more exciting presentations by our Bond Oversight Committee. Thank you for being here. And if everyone doesn't know, this is Dawn and Rick, and they have been part of our DFAC committee, part of our PAC committee, and the entire time on our bond oversight committee. So, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. It's been an interesting experience over the last 8 years. I'm Rick Costin. And I am chairman of the committee. I'm actually the third person sitting in this seat. And this is Don Davis, the vice chair. First of all, I want to just cover a couple of things that kind of permeated our committee meetings for almost the last 5 years. The main theme that we always kept in mind was promises made, promises kept. And we heard that statement many times from many people. And I'd really like to start off by thanking those people who put in all the time and effort. The remaining committee members, we started off with 9, we ended up with 6. The remaining committee members, Don, Jerry Bomey, Kevin Mansky, Rex Watkins, and Heath Casper. But I'd especially like to thank special thanks to the previous chairs of this committee, Pat Eastman, who led this committee for the first 3 years and did most of the heavy lifting with our committee in the beginning. That's when the major part of the work had to be done. And then when Pat left, Dale DeBolt, who took over for him and maintained the leadership until I finally picked up the last few pieces. I'd like to say that HMK Company was an excellent representative for the district to oversee the many projects to fulfill the bond promise. The additional benefit of HMK that HMK provided was their presence on social media. They kept the public informed about the progress of the many different projects in this committee, on this bond. And if I remember right, there were 300 projects in total. One of the other benefits, one of the main emphasis of HMK in directing this whole project was to keep things local. Over 50% of the contractors who worked on this project were local. Local being defined within a 25-mile radius. Well, if you think about that, that's a huge benefit to our community. People who work here, they spend money here, and they benefit from the work that they've done here. Also, I think the district is very lucky to have Doug Pigman and his staff. They did an excellent job of doing a great deal of work in-house that did not have to be contracted out. And as a result, saved the district a lot of time and a lot of money. Yes. The other comment I have is related to what Director Wilson said about CTE, Career Technical Education. That was a huge theme throughout the entire bond. Every middle school got benefit of the work trying to create spaces for career technical education. Both high schools got it, but particularly South Albany High School. The glowing report we had from Director Wilson is all a result of the bond to increase the footprint and improve what was available there. So that's all I have to say. You have my report in your packet. So unless you have anything to add. Questions?
I don't. Just thank you for your service.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair,
much.
if I could I just, a couple things. First of all, I just want to thank you both for being here and for the huge amount of time that you put into this. And Rick, or Pat, I see out there, and Pat, thank you very much for all the time that you put into this. I know, like from the very beginning, you were part of this, and so you worked really hard at it. And it's been nice just to have some conversations with you about how all that worked and all the work that it took. It's not unusual probably for a district to put together a facilities committee and say, what do we need long range? And to talk about that and then to take support from the community as the district works to pass a bond. Sometimes that's more effective than others, or it takes more work or what have you, depending on the district. This group did a terrific job of that. I think what is unusual is the work that the committee did after that, just to make the bond oversight component of it, just to say, we want to make sure that the citizens of the community get what they were promised, and that, that it's going to be done well, that there's going to be quality, and that it's going to be kept within budget, and that we're going to have some timeliness to the work that gets done. And so you all spent some untold hours on that, and I just want to make sure and say thank you very much for that. And I know that the community, some of the community will have no idea that you did this or that you existed, but every one of them owes you a debt of gratitude because you paid really close attention to the resource that you entrusted to the district and made sure that we did a good job maximizing its use. So I just want to make sure and say thank you to all of you. And I'm not sure, 8 years. 8 years I heard you say that you have volunteered into this, and just, I know that we'll be asking others in the future for similar kinds of work, and I just want to make sure that we give you proper thank you. I know that we can't really, but I just want to say thank you very much, all of you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
If it's okay, I'd like to add a little comment that came from our last discussion. Throughout the period of time when we met as a committee and we discussed, in addition to general committee meetings, please know that many, many members of the teams did a lot of extra on-site tours, midway through projects, multiple times to various schools, planning meetings. So in multiple stages of planning with the architects, with HMK, with the designers, with the landscape designers. The one concern that was always present in our minds and was discussed openly and overtly from the get-go was that we sell the next bond by doing this one right. And from our position within the committee, we believe that we did. But hearing, so I wasn't part of DFAC, but I was involved starting at the PAC period, and this didn't happen in a couple of years, and so many of you are new board members, and so the one encouragement I would like to throw out is your work for the next stage needs to start now. We can't wait till it's time to form a PAC and start reaching out to the community. We're very fortunate in a number of circumstances relating to how the budget and the sale of our bond funds, and we came out ahead, and we beat all the other districts in the area to the punch, so we got a hold of contractors before they did and so forth. And unless you've seen all the numbers, and I don't know that you could have seen them, but the amount of money that Doug Pigment's crew, we're talking millions and millions of dollars that they have saved the district in both the short-term and long-term functioning costs. So I would encourage you to be looking forward and keeping this in your minds that the prep work for the next time we go out starts now. It's not too early to start, and that the groundwork and foundation work needs to begin now, because as much work as we got done, we're not even halfway there. As a community, we let things sit for 40 years, and we've grown, and unfortunately, it's come at a huge cost, and we can't afford not to take care of these students moving forward. So just one warning is you're already on the hot seat, folks.
Thanks for that.
Great, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we are moving to our consent agenda. Item J1, there's a ask is to move to approve personnel certified as presented.
So moved.
All second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. J2 is personnel classified. The action requested is move to approve personnel classified as presented.
So moved.
All second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And J3 is our meeting notes from 3/14/22. Recommendation is move to approve minutes from 3/14/22 regular board meeting as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we're going to move to item K. It's our old business, Board Policy G, Section G. And that has your name on it, Mr. Superintendent.
It does. So we have policy section G, was reviewed by the policy committee and has been up before the board for first reading. And the policy rewrite committee is recommending the board adopt the changes to the policies and administrative regulations, except those listed below, which are being finalized. And so that would be my recommendation as well.
Recommendation of staff to is moved to approve Section G policies and administrative regulations updated as presented.
Can
by
we
the
have some
policy-
discussion? One of my questions I posed earlier is that there were some forms that were deleted from here, and we were going to reference how to find those. Has that work been done?
I am going to refer to Chris Green, who gave me the answer to this the other day, and now I don't remember it.
The best place to do that would be to have them linked into our staff and our parent handbooks, because any changes that you would make would have to bring the policy back through. So any form that is available for people will either be in the staff parent handbook, or if they're required to be on the website, they'll know about them.
Okay, so is there a reference in here anywhere where to go look for those? I mean, if you have a complaint or you need to file a form, do they know where to go look when they look at the board policy?
We could add it to each one that would have a form.
From my standpoint, I mean, before the forms were there and they were very obvious and they followed the policy, and there should be at least some notation that where they need to go if they have an issue so they can find it so that it's not a burden.
Right, it's our intent to have it be easier for everybody as opposed to harder. And part of the issue is that, you know, every time the legislature convenes, sets of policies change. And then it means that if the policy changes, keeping up with the link and keeping up with all the pieces makes it into a real challenge to keep it accurate and to make sure that the form reflects the change or whatever it may be as well. So we just think that the easiest way to do this is to make sure that we have a notation on those that says, here's where you can find it, and then have it in those places.
That'd be fair, as long as they know where to go find it. I'm happy with that.
All right, well, we'll see to it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of Section G policies as presented, contingent that there's a notation on the bottom of these policies that indicates where forms can be found.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Gentlemen, our next agenda item is K2. This is our 22-23 school calendar. I do have a request of the board if we could move this to the next board meeting. We're currently working on some budgetary things and would appreciate consensus.
I'm good with that.
Wait. Was that staffs? Are they okay with? There were some dominoes that were to follow. That's why I asked that.
So the one situation we're looking at in HR is getting out our intent to return request to classified staff. And we've held off to do that prior, so the board could identify some calendar pieces, specifically winter break and spring break, because in our intent to return, we identify those weeks. So you could, if the board wanted to look at the calendar and winter break being those last 2 weeks of December and spring break being the last full week of March, agree that those would not change, I can then send out the request for intent to return and get that process happening. And then the other pieces are other pieces that don't affect that.
I see shaking heads, and I think we have consensus on that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Should we do a motion that we will keep those in place for just those 2 vacations? Want to do that?
Sure, I'll entertain a motion.
You're better at wording this stuff.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve, as part of the agenda item tonight, the schedule for Christmas break and spring break, and continue the rest of the details of the calendar until our next board meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, I don't see reports. All right, we'll bring us into our new business, N1, Board Policy Section I.
Yes, thank you, Chair Aganagwa. We have our first presentation of Policy I this evening. The Policy Rewrite Committee has reviewed the majority of the policies and administrative regulations in Section I, and the remaining policies and administrative regulations in Attachment 2 are being finalized and will come to the board as soon as that they are complete. Action would be requested at the next board meeting, assuming that the Policy I items currently up for first reading are acceptable to the board.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
I have some.
Yes, sir.
There's a new policy in here that we have not had before, and it's a direct result of our listening sessions. We were at a listening session in November, and we had a very, and Pete was with me, and we had a very passionate mother come in and discuss some of the issues with her children's school and what was going on. And one of the comments she made is that her children were not reciting the Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom. I found that odd, so I did some research. I asked Superintendent Saxon to look into it, and indeed, we did not have a flag policy at Greater Albany Public Schools. I then went and did some additional research, found the ORS that applies to this, and found that it is indeed state law that our children recite the Pledge of Allegiance at least once per week. In the way that we've all understood it to be, it's quoted in the ORS. And I'm very excited to include this. It's something I'm very passionate about. And I'm excited that we're going to have flags in all the classrooms. There's some of them that got missed in the new construction. There's some of the school buildings that do not have flagpoles in front of them, that will be added as a result of this. And that we'll be back to saying the Pledge of Allegiance on a weekly basis in our schools.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
And just a small clarification, I think the law requires that we provide the opportunity.
Correct, yeah, it is the opportunity, is not a requirement.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on Policy I? We'll move to N2, curriculum adoption.
Chair Aganaga, members of the board, I'd like to ask Curriculum Coordinator Stacy Lee. I'd like to just sing her praises and just a deep debt of gratitude for months and months-long work that has happened with committees from both the elementary and the middle school. Laura Jacobsma-Obstall as well, who has helped with those, and you'll see some of those curriculum committee members behind you representing both elementary and middle school. What you'll see and hear today really is the result of months and months long and hours long work, diving deeply into standards and curriculum to make sure that we as a district are good consumers of curriculum and can fulfill the state adoption in the best way possible. So, Ms. Lee, take it away.
If you'll remember from our last meeting, there are 3 areas of the curriculum adoption that I'd like to talk to you about. World languages, which began meeting last year and extended through this year. Their adoption then will be for 6 years because it will go through spring 2027. English language development, which is on schedule to start next fall through spring 2028. And language arts, which is also on track to start next fall through spring 2028. Tonight, what I mainly want to do is give you some information about our actual recommendations from each of those committees. And then at our next board meeting, I'll be asking for an action item related to adoption. So for world languages, our team members were really all of our Spanish 1 through 4, French 1 through 4, and German 1 through 4 teachers at the high schools.
We started meeting last year and met again, I think 9 additional times this year. We've met several times. The grade levels impacted are grades 9 through 12. Again, we have those 6 years that will be part of the adoption. We're recommending Vista Higher Education for both French and Spanish. So you'll see it's Chaumont for French and Senderos from Spanish. For German, we are recruiting a new German teacher for next year. And so the current German teacher recommended Cte USA's Klasse, but Vista Higher Learning also has Mosaic, and the current teacher does not have any concerns about Mosaic. So when we have a new person in place that we've hired, if we have a successful hire for German, our idea is to give that German teacher the option between those two. The quote price is there. It's about $187,000 for 6 years. So what that includes, so each student would have a print student edition of the text. There'll be 6-year licenses for digital student editions and resources beyond that, including an online workbook. There's a print teacher edition of the text for each teacher, plus digital teacher editions and resources. And then it includes a generous professional development plan with live and on-demand support. Some of the highlights from the team that they enjoyed how representative it was of different cultures within the French, German, and Spanish-speaking worlds. The themes and approaches align well with what they have been doing. They have a pretty robust essential learnings, they call it, where the different topics that they cover each semester and which standards they're covering, and they felt like this is a smooth transition that way and fits well with their current approach. It also, at the same time, has multiple new resources for them to promote student interaction and extended practice. They have not had a comprehensive textbook. They did an independent adoption last time that was primarily a packet with vocabulary and grammar exercises. So this is much more robust than they've had. It gives them a lot of resources to draw upon. This will be considered an independent adoption. So the state approved an earlier version of Senderos. It was on the approved list. But we saw a lot of improvements with the 2023 version. Since it wasn't the 2023 version that was put before the state, this will have to go through that independent adoption. I don't expect it to be a problem because it already passed in an earlier version. But I wanted to make sure that you knew that. Chaumont is a complete reworking for Vista of their last adoption, and so it fits very well with Senderos. They're both set up the same way. For English language development, we had a team that approximately half of our current English language development teachers were on the team, plus a principal joined several of the meetings, who's here now. The grade levels impacted are K-12, and the adoption years are those 7 years starting next fall. We had 2 different ones that have been on public approval for public comment for K-5, but the team is now recommending Cengage for all 3 levels. So Cengage was one of the K-5 options that we presented. We also presented Vista's Connect, but the team prefers Reach Higher. They just needed a little more time to talk that through. Impact for 6th through 8th grade, and Pathways for 9th through 12th grade. Their quote is approximately $104,000. So that includes print student editions of the text, a 7-year license for digital student editions and resources, including there's an online workbook also. Print and teacher editions of texts and lesson resources, a 7-year digital teacher edition and resources, and again, there's live and on-demand support for professional development. Some of the highlights for this, there's cross-curricular programming, so it's making connections as students are learning English with what they might be learning in science, social studies, mathematics, and language arts. It has a good integration of the language domains, built into each unit. So each unit has listening, speaking, reading, writing, and critical thinking.
For high school and pathways, it has 2 separate books. One book is more focused on reading and writing. The other book is focused more on listening and speaking. At all levels, it has several entry points for students based on their proficiency level. So you can use our own assessments, but there's also assessments that come with Cengage that help us place students correctly on what their language proficiency needs are. And then it has assessments built into the program that are also customizable. And I want to say thank you to Bonnie Dietrich and Jessica Dion. They led most of these meetings. I participated in several of them, but they really took the lead for English language development. And Bonnie's here tonight. Language arts. So we have, for our team members, we had teachers from all of our elementary schools, including 3 teachers from South Shore that teach in Spanish as part of our dual language program, and 2 special education teachers. We have 195 elementary teachers, so classroom teachers. So they were representing a much larger group, but they were able to get feedback a couple different times during the process where we asked teachers earlier in the year what their priorities were, so we made sure that we were on track with the priorities of that larger group. For instance, that priorities survey had 170 people respond, so we were getting good response rates. For middle school, we had 11 middle school teachers there out of a group of about 20, so it was about half of our middle school language arts teachers. The grade levels impacted are K through 8. We have delayed and extended our time period for 9th through 12th grade, so next year you'll hear about high school language arts, along with mathematics. Adoption years are 7 years, are starting next fall. Their recommendations, both groups unanimously recommended Houghton Mifflin Harcourt's products. For K-5, it's Into Reading, and the Spanish companion for our dual language school is Arriba la Lectura. And then 6th through 8th grade, it's Into Literature. The quote for that is approximately $1.8 million. Most of that is K-5, about more than 2/3 of it is K-5. At the elementary level, we have twice, the grades. You have 6 grades versus 3 grades. But you also have several materials that are foundational reading materials and small group reading materials that make it more costly. And that's pretty standard for language arts. It includes 7 years of a consumable student that they call a My Book that has, for the older grades, for kindergarten, it has mostly writing pieces because the teacher will do most of the reading to the students. But for the older grades beyond that, it has the full excerpts and full stories, full nonfiction text right in the book for students to annotate directly, along with the other exercises for the students. Each student will have their own book every year. There's also a 7-year digital student license that includes the book and other materials. There's a teacher guide set that will have the printed physical teacher guide sets. 7-year teacher digital licenses, small group instruction book sets, and for the younger kids, there's several different kinds of books, decodable books at their reading levels, leveled readers to use in small groups, mini lessons for teachers for how to do those, small group. The Rigby leveled reader libraries, we're excited about this for K-5. This is an opportunity to have more books for students that are at their reading level. So students get that early success of being able to read something on their own. 7-year digital licenses for Writable. That's an extra writing program for supporting writing instruction in middle school that we're also very excited about. It includes things like peer editing built into the program. And then they also have a very generous professional development program for us, including live and on-demand professional development for not only our classroom teachers, but our elementary instructional coaches, the middle school instructional coaches that we hope to hire, and administrators at both elementary and middle school level. For talking about highlights, I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to some of the people on the committee. So we have several people here, and I've asked 4 of them to come up and speak. So I think what I'll do is have them kind of move their chairs up here before we just, and then we'll just pass the microphone. I asked them to share a little bit about what they're excited about with the language arts curriculum.
First up is Geneva Bennett. Don't quite reach. Oh well. Hi, I'm Geneva Bennett. I teach kindergarten at Liaison Reports. And first I just want to say it was an awesome job. Stacey and Laura did it. This was the best put together adoption committee I've ever been on. I was really impressed. Second, I want to say, wow, I like this curriculum. It, coming off of teaching online, made a lot of teachers in our districts realize we need some better digital tools. The students are a lot more digital savvy than they used to, and the digital platform that this adoption HMH has, unparalleled. I was extremely impressed. I was very happy with it. My kindergartners would be able to interact. They could hear stories again. They could read on their own. There's just so much to that digital platform that I didn't know was missing in the prior one. I really like that. And the second thing that really stood out to me was the engageability. After 2 years of being at home, staring at screens, they are harder to engage, and we're seeing behaviors because of engagement issues, and we're seeing a lot of things. So that to me, I have two lenses when I'm looking at this. One, it's gonna get their attention and keep it, and two, that's gonna cut down on behaviors, and I know that everyone is kind of aware of that issue district-wide, nationwide. So I love the books for the kids, and I love the teacher edition is well put together, well organized, concise, and easy to teach from. So that's my big plug. Yay! Sorry, I can't hear it.
My name is Mercedes German. I teach 4th grade at Waverly Elementary, and I was really excited about this curriculum. It's nice to have something that not only looks nice, don't judge a book by its cover, but it does have a nice cover, but also when we really dug deep, it had the things we were looking for. So the foundational reading, so important because, students aren't robots. They don't all learn everything at the same rate and the same speed. Am I wearing something? I don't know. Oh, okay. We'll just go a little this way. And so to know that students will be well supported in the earlier grades, but then there's also support for them in the upper grades as well in elementary, because they need that. They won't 100% have that coming into, like when I teach 4th grade, not 100% of my kids come in with those skills. So I do still need a way to support the kids that don't come in with those skills yet. Something else I really like is that the SEL is embedded. We only have so many hours in the day, so anytime we can incorporate something into something we're already doing, it's like a bonus, everybody wins. And our students right now really need those SEL skills across the board. The science and the social studies are also crosswalked in there. And again, that's a win for me because we can do more than one thing at a time, plus things aren't done in isolation anyway. It doesn't make sense to just teach reading by itself without the context of everything else. The trade books, so students having their own book and being able to annotate it and highlight it and take notes and write in that text. So when they're having those discussions, it's right there for them. They can write on the text instead of having to, have a bunch of things they're flipping through. And then that, I think, also facilitates those Qtel tasks when they're having discussions with their peers and having those deep, rich conversations that build their learning. I think I could go on, but I won't. Guided reading lessons. You shouldn't have given me a microphone. Guided reading is so important, and right now, it's kind of, make it on your own. Everyone's reinventing the wheel every day in our own classrooms, and that doesn't necessarily make sense when our time is so valuable and we have a lot of things to be doing and getting ready for, especially when you teach multiple subjects. So having guided reading lessons ready to go to support those students at their different levels and meet them where they are would be absolutely amazing. Okay, I'm gonna cut myself off.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Powell. I teach Spanish here at South Shore Elementary in 4th grade. And I just want to say first, thanks for having us after hours and hours and hours of poring over a different curriculum. It's really nice to have our professional voices heard, and of course to Stacy for leading it. So the list, I could read a huge long list of all the things that I like about this curriculum, but I'll just hit some highlights. First thing that I noticed is that it's flexible for different schedules. So if different schools are on different schedules, it can work with all of it. Another thing is that it includes daily phonics and handwriting for the younger grades. Something that as an upper elementary teacher I noticed still definitely needs to be worked on. And so that sets a solid foundation for when they get to upper elementary and of course for the rest of their educational career. Then third and up, they do continue the foundational skills as you've heard, but it adds in communication, which our students will definitely need after being online on screens for a year. I've noticed that that is something they really need some help with, and it explicitly teaches communication lessons 3 times a week. Another thing is that the way the lessons are set up is step 1, connect and teach, step 2, apply to text, and step 3, engage and respond, which is almost exactly how Qtel is set up, which is what the district has already invested in and what teachers have already modeled all of their lessons around. So it works in perfectly with what we're already doing. Ease for teachers, it far outweighed the other curriculums that we saw. The materials are there. We don't have to go searching. We don't have to make a lot of our own. It's ready and available for us in both languages, which is very nice as the Spanish teacher in 4th grade. The writing is connected to the reading. It's its own unit, but it's related to what the students are working on in the reading section, as well as social studies and science themes for each unit. So it's all tied in. I could go on and on. Another thing that we heard about is the texts are engaging for students, and it has a lot of authentic texts in Spanish as well. One thing that the other curriculums that we looked at did not have, which is very valuable for our diverse classrooms. And then the last thing that I'll end on is that there's something called the family room that the parents can see what their students are learning online. So they can just log in and see what each grade level is doing, what they're working on, and better support them at home as well.
Thank you. Hi, I'm RJ Emick, and you'll have to forgive me referencing my notes. I tend to be long-winded and tangential, so I'll be...
You could be a school board member.
Yeah, I had a few points I wanted to point on for middle schools, the into literature. There were 5 points mainly that I wanted to touch on. First of all, the engagement, inclusion, and representation in this book is really excellent. A lot of our schools have pretty high Latinx populations, and there are a lot of stories from writers within that community, and it can be super helpful for engagement to have the students see themselves within these stories. And this goes for not just the Latinx population, this goes for our population in classes for African Americans and Asian Americans, and for our students of European descent. There are stories that cover just about every background, and it's super encouraging to see in this textbook a wide range of ethnicities represented. But also it goes beyond that. It's also the types of things that are being shared. There are narratives about growing up in middle school, and there are articles about video games, and there are argumentative pieces about how they can change their communities, things that these kids will be really excited about. I know I'm personally really excited about a lot of them myself. I saw the one about video games and lost my mind. I was super hyped about that. Second point was assessments. The book provides many different types of assessment, both formative and summative. Not just tests that are quizzes that you hand out, but also simple oral responses or exit tickets or things that weren't necessarily just your traditional, oh, take this quiz or worksheet and that'll be the summative assessment for everything. It's a lot more diverse than that, and kind of gets the kids engaged in a lot of different different activities, and allows them to show their knowledge in ways that they may not necessarily have gotten to in the The third one is ease of integration. In terms of just integrating this into our current systems, it's super flexible. It integrates perfectly with Google Classroom as well as Canvas. And since we have those already, things that we're using in our classrooms, it would be really nice to have those just easily slotted in. But also, since we have the previous one now, the collections from HMH, a lot of those stories just got ported over, so a lot of the assessments that we already use, that we put a lot of time into building, we can continue using these because it's already in the text. It would reduce a lot of the lift from having a new curriculum for next year's planning. And that would be massive, especially for any new teachers that are coming in, being able to hand them this assessment that we use, particularly, for example, we use Heartbeat from the collections right now. We could just hand that to them and say, hey, you don't have to do all of the planning because we have some of this already ready. I think it was touched on briefly, the materials look really fun, and that's not just like for us. For the students, when they open this up, it's super colorful, and it has lots of really engaging pictures that match with the text, so it's not just staring at just like a wall of text, which none of us enjoy doing. Having something that's like attractive to look at is super useful. And then lastly, the supports from the online toolkit as well as in the book for how we can scaffold and support our students are super handy. In particular, the online toolkit has the ability to change supports based on Lexile level, which that's super awesome. Being able to change the types of supports we provide based on the reading levels, the data that we're collecting from our students daily is massive. And it's not just our own class, so I teach 7th grade. I could look at my current students' Lexile level, but I could also look at how they performed over past years all the way back into elementary school. That's massive, being able to look at how they progressed over the course of their entire educational career, since we're all looking at HMH. That's really, really cool. I'm really excited about that. Being able to use all of that data, that's really exciting to me. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you all. I should have said thank you also to Laura Jacobsma-Obdal, who's helped me throughout this process as our program assistant for K-12 language arts. She's been really phenomenal to work with. And as you can see, we had very engaged teachers on our team that I'm very grateful for. Our next steps, we have public comments going on right now, and it continues. The survey's open through April 15th. Information's been shared twice through Parent Squared and through a message to all staff in the district, so it's gone out to about 20,000 people. There's 2 more in-person. We've had 3 in-person open sessions. There's 2 more happening this week, one tomorrow from 2 to 5 p.m. and another one on Friday from 11:30 to 1:30. Those are at our facilities and curriculum annex on Grand Prairie Road. And then at our next board meeting, what I'll do is share those public comments, address any concerns that may have come from those public comments, and then request board action to actually approve these instructional materials for adoption. Any questions?
Just thank you for all your work. Love the enthusiasm for textbooks. I never got it, and maybe I'll get some just being here with you tonight.
And I want to thank you. I spent 2.5 hours in there, and I had them start me at kindergarten, and we went through 8th grade, and I flipped through every single manual, every single book. I too found them very engaging. There's some stories I had to stop and read because, like, oh, that's interesting. What am I looking at here? It's colorful. I think it's a great text. I hope our students will be well served, but I know you are very passionate about it, and so I think it's going to be a great one.
No, just thanks, everyone. Thanks for putting in the extra time.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the committee for their good work and Stacy for your leadership on this, Lisa as well. Teachers are super passionate about learning. They want to make sure that their kids are going to learn. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? And so if you think about that, if you have a passion about something, about how important it is to you, about how you go about trying to accomplish it, right? And so, you know, exactly how you're going to teach and with what you're going to teach is an incredibly important consideration. We come to these meetings and we see such tip of the iceberg bits of work, and so we're not even seeing that. I mean, it's not a third below the surface. It's a lot more than that. But I really think that anytime you decide to go into a curriculum adoption, you're entering into a leap of faith. And it is that you can bring together this group of people who are really passionate about learning how and what they're going to teach with, and go through a process and believe that at the end of the process, with all the different possible materials that they could possibly use, that they're going to select one. It's really kind of scary and daunting, because if you run through the process and at the end, you haven't accomplished that, everybody wants something different, you actually can kind of rip things asunder. I mean, I've seen districts where teachers get to the end and they can't agree, and the methodology by which you're going to teach kids, you're stuck. And it's so it's kind of a scary thing, and it takes a lot of diligence and work. These members have to dig through these materials and try to figure out what this is going to be, and then go back to their own schools and talk to staff about what it is that they're seeing and get feedback about what staff at those schools want to have. And so they take a huge responsibility, and so there's a little pressure there, because if they're voting on something that other people don't really like, it can turn into a bit of a problem on a personal level. And so it just is a huge undertaking. And I just want to say thank you for being willing to do that, for having the kind of passion that you have about learning and how and what you teach with, and for the diligence that you spent into looking into these materials, for the leadership that you all provided, so that we don't get stuck. And instead we get to a place where there's enthusiasm about what it is that we're going to use to teach kids. So really great job. Looking forward to the end of the review process and moving forward and making sure that our kids are learning. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. All right, that is going to move us into subject Q. So I'm going to read Greater Albany Public Schools School Board Director, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I think we missed N.
And 3?
And 3.
And O and P.
Sorry, my computer had to re-log in. We'll start at N. And Mr. Saxon.
Yes, actually, I think, Case, were you going to cover this?
Yeah.
Mr. Bowman, thank you.
Sure, I definitely can. So upon the financial audit that we just completed, there was a recommendation that the district engage in a third-party actuary to perform the actuary evaluation of the district's pension and basically post-employment benefits. It brings us into accordance with a couple of clauses in GASB, and we would like to request the board review that and approve us to engage in this contract.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move to Q.
No.
All right.
Mr.
Am I still
Chairman,
missing?
Mr. Chairman, under agenda item O, future agenda items, I want to raise the issue of a supplemental budget. Is that coming to us? The budget here is crawling to an end, and I think that there's some actions we need to take. When might we expect those?
That is true, and we will need to do that, and I believe that that will be near the end of May.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further future agenda items? Any other business? Now we'll move to Q.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we recess and go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660-2I.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we have a small break?
just go with this.
We're going to exercise our right to go into executive session. The Greater Albany Public School Board of Directors will now meet in executive session under authority of ORS 192.660, number 2, section B.
Just procedurally, to be clear and convey what happened here, is you came back from recess into regular session, not executive session, because I cited the wrong provision for executive session. And so we're in regular session, you're now directing us to go into executive session.
And to be super clear, Director Nyquist, you did, but only because we gave it to you, so I don't want you to have to wear that, sorry.
I wouldn't want it to get around that I do what I'm told.
We'll entertain a motion to go to executive session.
So moved.
All second.
All in favor?
Pursuant to the provisions cited.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Test, test. Or we might, the speakers are unplugged, we might not hear ourselves.
All good.
All right, good evening, everyone. We'll call us back in session at 9:50. The board has met in executive session, and I'll entertain a motion.
So to be clear, you're out of executive session, now back into regular session.
Correct.
Thank you.
So we're good now? Okay. How do we phrase this again?
Make a motion to uphold the
Your choices are to uphold the superintendent's
decision or
to modify or overturn the
Correct.
decision.
I move that we uphold the superintendent's decision to terminate employment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think you need to ask for discussion.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.